Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. I am Paul Perdichizzi, and thank you for joining me as always. Draft season is officially upon us. If you were watching, the Kansas City Chiefs just defeated the Buffalo Bills. Earlier today, the Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Washington Commanders. Super Bowl is set. But here at Saturday to Sunday, we have turned the page. The college football season is in the books. The Ohio State Buckeyes winning the first ever, 12-team playoff. Everything now turns to the 2025 NFL Draft. The All-Star circuit kicks off the pre-draft months. Shrine Bowl practices have already started. Senior Bowl practices start on Tuesday. You have the Shrine Bowl Thursday night. You have the Senior Bowl next Saturday. Here at Saturday, Sunday, this is when we kick it into high gear. Previewing the bowl games tonight. Coverage throughout the week, live tweeting during each of the two All-Star games, recap pods, and then we turn the page to getting ready for the NFL Combine. Then we have our tier buster shows, lots of great guests in the industry come on prior to the draft. So now wall-to-wall coverage of all things 2025 NFL Draft. So let's get right into talking about these All-Star games. They have significant value in terms of evaluating these prospects. It's an opportunity to send us back to the film. It's an opportunity to get eyes on somebody we haven't watched yet and say, wow, that guy really stood out. It gives these smaller school prospects a chance to kind of maybe on a playing field with better opposition against them, to have a shot to show that their talents and really be evaluated more on a wider level than maybe where they were playing the college football season. So there is a lot to get excited about in the pre-draft months. I love the All-Star games, love the Combine, pro days, everything that comes. We're getting ready for that 2025 NFL Draft. So let's start with the Senior Bowl, and then we'll work our way back to talking about some of the prospects at the Shrine Bowl. Right now, I'm really going to focus my attention on the offensive skill players. On the recap shows, when I'm tweeting during the game, I'll obviously start talking about the defensive prospects as well, because obviously as we turn our attention to the NFL Draft, I do talk about both sides of the football, especially those months leading up to the draft. I do my guys episode. We talk about who I think is going to go in the first round, first couple of rounds. My draft projections notebook, which has prospects on, both sides of the ball, every single position that I'm doing, small snapshots of who they are, how they win, developmental areas. But we're really going to hone in on the offensive skill players in these All-Star game preview shows to kind of set the stage for the listeners who look at us as a thing that really kind of get them ready for their Devy leagues, their dynasty leagues. But obviously on my side, I love covering both sides of the ball. But we're going to hone in to kind of narrow it down a little bit on the offensive skill players. So let's just kind of talk through the quarterbacks to get started. Who will be in attendance? Alabama's Jalen Milroe, Louisville's Tyler Show, Memphis's Seth Hennigan, Notre Dame's Riley Leonard, Ohio State's Will Leonard, Ole Miss's Jackson Dart, Oregon's Dylan Gabriel, and out of Canada, Taylor Algazma make up the quarterbacks at the 2025 Senior Bowl. Listen, I think it's a pretty interesting class. We know that Cam Ward and Shadu Sanders make up the headliners in this quarterback class. But after that, it is wide open for QB3. I think this initial stage here in Mobile, it's got a real chance to kind of help maybe sort that out, and maybe somebody rises to the occasions. I think Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart would be the two that I would say are the leaders in the clubhouse. But I think Ohio State's Will Howard can really ride the momentum from his playoff performance, from them winning the national championship. I think this is an opportunity for him to maybe put his name in the list. I don't think he gets to early second round, where I think Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart have a chance to go, but I don't think it's inconceivable that he's looked at as a top 50 pick if he has a strong pre-draft process, and that starts here in Mobile. I've done, obviously watched Will Howard a lot over his collegiate career, a lot with Ohio State this year. a little bit more of a deeper dive lately. I kind of look at him as, 6'4", 237. Obviously, the production this year was unbelievable. He's got above average to good athleticism, great size and frame. He's got good rushing ability and mobility to move around the pocket. I think the arm talent is better than people give him credit for. I don't think it's great or anything, but I think it's above average to good. I think he's got good accuracy and ball placement. I think he throws with good touch and anticipation. Obviously, a very experienced starter in his collegiate career, which usually translates to coming in and being able to hit the ground running a little bit faster at the NFL level. I think he shows good pocket presence, good mental processing, pre-snap recognition. There has been some inconsistencies throughout his collegiate career. I think the mechanics has to be cleaned up a little bit, the footwork. Sometimes he rushes it a little bit, especially handling pressure. I think there's some inconsistent decision-making at times. Post-reading coverages, I think, is another area that I'd like to see some improvement on. And he's going to be a 24-year-old rookie. But there's a lot to like about Howard, especially in a questionable quarterback class. I think teams can look at him and see a player that they think could be high quality backup, but a chance to maybe be a starter. And if a team looks at him and thinks he can be a starter, I think that could push him into the day 2 mix there to be somewhere in that top 50, top 75 picks, potentially get taken in round 2. Obviously, Jalen Milroe, for me, has been my QB3 for a while now. I still would take my shot on a guy like Jalen Milroe over Jackson Dart. There's just traits of Jalen Milroe that you can't teach, right? His speed and athleticism are at the elite level. Like, he's got an elite trait and elite calling card. He can push the ball vertically down the field. For me, we want to see the improvement in the accuracy, the ball placement on the short to intermediate stuff. We want to see him go through progressions faster, find the second read, the pre and post snap reading of coverages. That's the things. But he can throw on the run. He's a playmaker. He's got good play strength, good toughness. He can be a weapon immediately, and you kind of got to harness his skills that he does really well early in his career and hope that the rest of that develops. We've seen Jalen Hurts develop into a much better quarterback prospect. We've seen Anthony Richardson be very inconsistent, up and down. Justin Fields, we thought he came in more refined, but we've seen some of that same stuff with Justin Fields. We've seen Josh Allen take the next step. So, there's all different levels of a highly regarded prospect in terms of athletic traits, some developing into great quarterbacks at the next level, some flaming out, and others in between that have showed moments of being a high-end quarterback, but too much inconsistency to be there regularly. So the Jalen Milroe, I think a team's going to fall for him. I think there's still a real chance he can go somewhere late round 1, because I just think that the traits are a little too tantalizing. So could it be a team like Pittsburgh that made the playoffs, maybe looks at a guy like Jalen Milroe and thinks they can harness that in? Or another team is a team that trades back into the end of round 1 from the top of the second round. A team like the Giants, if they were to take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter and not take Shadu Sanders or Cam Ward, depending on even if they're available. Could a team like that trade into the top of the second? I think it's possible. And then you go to a guy like Jackson Dart, who I've admitted the whole year, I haven't been as high on Jackson Dart as some people. Average size, good frame. I think the arm talent is just average. I think people overrate the arm talent a little bit, but he does have good athleticism, rushing ability, and mobility. He can throw on the run. He can play off structure. He can throw from different arm angles and platforms. He throws with good touch. The accuracy, I think, is probably just average in terms of the short to intermediate. I still have some questions about, was the scheme really aiding in that? How is he going to translate to the next level? He doesn't have those high-end, athletic traits or physical traits. And the scheme, I think, really aided him in college. So that's where I'm on the fence a little bit about Jackson Dart. But I could understand somebody looking at Dart and thinking there are things he does better than Jalen Milroe. And Jalen Milroe might be too much of a projection for somebody, that they might have Dart ahead of Milroe. For me, I'm shooting on the high-end traits, the high-end physical traits, the special athleticism. He does have some elite calling cards and traits. I don't think Jackson Dart does. So I would take my swing on a guy like Jalen Milroe, because if he develops, he could be a high-end quarterback. Even if Jackson Dart hits his ceiling, is he a middle-of-the-run average starting quarterback? That's how kind of I see it. But if a team's looking for a guy who might need less development of time in terms of putting it all together in terms of the throwing component, I could see a team preferring Dart. For me, it's going to be Milroe, though, over Dart when I'm evaluating these prospects. If we take this to the running backs, Actually, let me just mention Dylan Gabriel. Obviously, great collegiate career, bounced around a little bit. Tremendous final seasons here for Oregon. Listen, we know his limitations. We know undersized. We know the arm talent is average at best, and that might be being generous. We know he's not going to, rifle it in there into tight windows or push the ball vertically down the field outside the numbers with consistency. But we also know that he's a guy who's played a lot of games. He's got good athleticism. He can move around the pocket. He's a guy who could develop into a really serviceable, functional backup quarterback, especially if you have like a West Coast or a spread offense that he can come in and run. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that, anybody could be the next Brock Purdy, but there could be teams that look at Dylan Gabriel and say, why can't he be our guy that we take somewhere on day 3? Yeah, maybe he's just a backup, but maybe things break right and we get a guy like San Francisco, fell into Brock Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant, and he had a lot of limitations in terms of his physical traits coming out, and look what happened there in the right setup, in the right scheme, and then he developed into a really, good, solid starting NFL quarterback. I don't want to put that on anybody. I think putting that on Dylan Gabriel is not fair to Dylan Gabriel to say, oh, he could be the next Brock Purdy. But teams are always looking for that. And when you look at a guy like Gabriel with ton of college experience, with ton of production at the college level, I think some teams, but limitations in terms of his physical traits, people are going to throw around that name at some point in discussing Dylan Gabriel. So I think it's at least worth mentioning. But I think he's an intriguing guy that, you draft in round 4 or 5. You hope he develops into a cheap, affordable backup quarterback who, if he needs to play, can keep the offense moving and at least functional. And if you fall into something else, great. But that's, Gabriel's going to be a guy that there's some teams, some evaluators, some scouts that really are going to say he doesn't meet the thresholds in terms of what we want in terms of our quarterback. But other people who are a little bit more open-minded, different style of offense, will look at his ability to throw a touch and anticipation, keeping the offense on structure, and look at him and say, listen, he could develop into a functional backup quarterback for us. And Purdy might be the dream scenario of, if it actually completely panned out, maybe he could be that. And I think that's where we're kind of at with Dylan Gabriel. If we take this to the running back group, really strong running back group. So let me run down who's going to be in attendance at the Senior Bowl, and then talk about a couple of the prospects. We have Arizona State's Cam Scadaboo, Auburn, Jarquez Hunter, Central Florida's RJ Harvey, Delaware's Marcus Yarns, Kansas's Devin Neal, Miami's Damian Martinez, Michigan's Donovan Edwards, Michigan's Khalil Mullins, Oklahoma State's Ollie Gordon, USC's Woody Marks, Virginia Tech, Bashal Tudin, SMU Rashard Smith, Syracuse LaQuint Allen, Georgia's Trevor Etienne. Really strong group of running backs at the Senior Bowl, which is no surprise considering it's arguably the strongest group in the entire draft. Definitely the strongest offensive group by far. Defensive tackles are unbelievable as well on the other side of the ball. So no shock that the Senior Bowl running back group is a really impressive, strong group. Let me go through a couple of the guys that I'm looking forward to and stand out. Interested to see Cam Scadaboo. Listen, we saw the amazing run Arizona State had there, and I still haven't found out if he's going to be doing everything. I know he's on the roster on Senior Bowl's website, and he's a competitor, but they obviously had a prolonged season, so we'll see how much he's on the field there. But Scadaboo is one of those guys who the pre-draft process is going to be an interesting one, because he's not going to be a guy who tests great, and he's not going to be a guy who I think looks great in these type of settings, because his best attributes, the footwork and short area quickness, are solid to good, but it's the very good to great contact balance, the toughness, the play strength, physicality, runs with low good pad level, the leg drive to pick up extra yards after contact, very good receiving skills, which we would see in a setting like this or at the combine. He has good vision and patience. We know he's not a guy who's going to test out well. He doesn't have great long speed. He's got some ball security issues he's got to clean up a little bit. Not going to be a guy who makes people miss with like shiftiness, but really versatile, tough, physical, constantly fighting for extra yards. He's going to have a place. I think he's in that like round 3, round 4, probably in this strong draft class. I could see him fall into the early portion of day 3, but he's going to be a guy that coaches love. Scouts love, especially when they get a chance to meet the kid. A lot to like about him. Auburn's Jarquez Hunter. Haven't really talked a lot about him this year. He had over 1,200 yards this past year, 5'10", 209. Really good athleticism, speed, burst, and acceleration. Good footwork with one cut ability. I don't think he's going to make a lot of people miss with multiple cuts on top of each other, but runs really hard. Good contact balance, play strength, leg drive. Very decisive. Shows good vision. Can hold up in pass protection. So Jarquez Hunter is a name who I could see somewhere called on day 3, but an intriguing prospect. One of the top running back prospects at the Senior Bowl is R.J. Harvey out of Central Florida. This past year, 1,577 yards and 22 touchdowns. Also 20 receptions for 267 yards and 3 touchdowns. Sometimes he looks to bounce runs outside a little too often for that big play. But there's a lot to like about Harvey's game. Very good athleticism, speed, burst, and acceleration. A home run threat when he gets into the open field. I love the footwork, the short area quickness, the elusiveness, and change of direction. He's got good contact balance. He's 5'9", 208. So he's not just a small like scat back. He could absorb contact, pick up extra yards. A good receiver out of the backfield. I think he's best in an outside zone run scheme. One of my favorite, he's going to be one of my guys. I'm going to talk a lot about him over the next couple of months, and that's Devin Neal out of Kansas. We've talked about him throughout the season as well. Good to very good athleticism. I love the stop-start acceleration. He's got good lateral quickness. He can make people miss. Love the change of direction skills and the jump cut ability to force missed tackles. Good vision and play strength as well. I think Devin Neal is going to be a riser in this pre-draft process. I think he's got 3 down skill set that I think is going to be really intriguing for teams. I have him on that round 3, early round 4 border. But again, so many running backs are going to be in that range because how strong of a class it is. Damian Martinez, the big bruiser out of Miami. Athleticism is only average. Same thing with the movement skills and speed. But for him, you like the footwork and the short area bursts. He shows the ability to one cut, good vision, the play strength, the power, the toughness, the physicality. Forces missed tackles with that. To me, he's going to be a guy who probably doesn't go in the top 100, but round 4, round 5, team's going to draft Damian Martinez, and he's got a real chance to outperform his draft slot and complement another shiftier, smaller type back in a backfield. I think Damian Martinez is going to be an intriguing name for evaluators who are looking for a complement to maybe what they already have on their depth chart. The Michigan duo, like Donovan Edwards, man, a couple of years ago, you would have thought he was legitimately in the round 1 mix. He just hasn't been able to put it together after a lot of success early in his collegiate career. We know the athleticism is great, the speed, the burst, the acceleration, but there's so much inconsistency with the vision, the patience, the natural run instincts. Team's going to be intrigued by him because of the pedigree, because of the, big time star recruit coming out of high school, the early collegiate career success, but he just hasn't been able to take it to the next level and live up to those expectations. So it will be interesting to kind of see if he gets a second life in terms of the NFL after, struggling the back end of his collegiate career. But I think some team will be intrigued who really looks at the athletic testing. Edwards should really shine in a couple of areas in that regard. His teammate, Khalil Mullins, if you're looking for the physical interior, north-south, short yardage, gap runner, that's who Mullins is. Tough, physical, run you over. He's a nice complement to a more shiftier back, if that's what you're looking for as well, similar to what I said with Damian Martinez. Prior to the season, I think most people, if they had seen this list, would have said the next guy, Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State, would have been the highest rated running back at the Senior Bowl. There was a lot of talk that he could have been RB2 or RB3 in this class after Ashingenti in the summer. I think for me, in the summer, he might have been 3rd or 4th after Marion Hampton. Obviously, the previous year, 1,700 yards rushing. This year, much more down year. Did not live up to that. Some of it was his own doing. A lot of it was the O-line. So, but Gordon, for a bigger guy, above average to good athleticism, speed, burst, and acceleration and movement skills for his size and frame. I like the footwork. I've always been a fan of Ollie Gordon's footwork. For a bigger guy, I think he's got really nimble and shifty feet. He's got that jump cut ability to force missed tackles and pick up extra yards. He's got good receiving skills for a bigger back. Sometimes I think the play strength and power and physicality, I want it to be a big strength of his based on his size and frame, but I always thought it was about average. So I don't think sometimes he played up to his measurements might dictate. And I think that's something that when teams draft a bigger back, they want him to play big. And I think sometimes Ollie Gordon plays like a little bit more of a smaller back than a bigger back. And I think that's something that, especially this year when the surrounding environment wasn't as ideal as the previous year, I think teams would have liked to see him just put his head down, pick up as many yards, use that size and frame, and show some more power and physicality than try to be a little bit more nimble and play like a smaller back. But I still think you got to evaluate the prospect as a whole. And Gordon still is an intriguing prospect. You don't rush for 1,700 yards the year before if there's not a lot of talent in there. So I think he's an interesting guy that if you watch 2024 film and then you watch 2023 film, you're going to get very different evaluations on this player. So you're probably going to end up meeting in the middle. But to know that he had that higher end evaluation somewhere in his repertoire, I think will speak volumes for him. So I think he might, while he seems to be a little bit down the pecking order right now in most people's running back ranks, I'm still intrigued with him. He's still going to be a top 8, top 10 back for me, and still somebody who I think should be on that round 3, round 4 border as well, like so many of these other guys I'm talking about, because I do think we've seen him perform at a really high level in college, and that's still inside him, and he's capable of doing that. One of my favorite backs in the class in terms of versatility is Woody Marks out of USC. The athleticism, the movement skills, good to very good lateral quickness, the agility, the elusiveness. I love the receiving skills. He's arguably the best receiving back in the draft this year. Versatile offensive weapon, can impact the game in a variety of ways. Rusher, receiver, returner. I really like Woody Marks' game. I think a team's going to look at him and say, you know what, round 3, he might be a guy who could be a little bit of a missing piece for us in terms of that versatility that he brings to the table. We are seeing a resurgence in the value of running backs. And I'm not going to sit here and say Woody Marks is Jahmyr Gibbs or Saquon Barkley, but we're seeing the impact of the running backs more and more at the NFL level now and what it could do to an offense. And I think a team is going to look at Woody Marks and the versatility that he can bring and think that that could unlock something in their offense. So I think more teams are going to be willing to invest a little bit higher than the past on running backs if they think that it could add something new and a different element to their offense. And I think Woody Marks has a chance to be that guy that people are talking about because of that, what he brings in the complete package there. So I think Woody Marks is going to be a guy who's going to continue to move up people's boards and rankings in the pre-draft process. Trevor Etienne out of Georgia. I know he didn't have the year that I think many people expected, but he's got the pedigree. Very good athleticism, speed, burst, start acceleration. He's got the lateral quickness, agility, and elusiveness to make people miss. The footwork, the jump cut ability. A lot to like about Trevor Etienne's game as well. Let's spin this over to the pass catchers. Let's start with the tight end group, because it's a strong tight end group that I'm excited for. These are the names who are going to be there. Alabama, C.J. Dippre, Bowling Green's Harold Fannin Jr., Clemson's Jake Brinstool, LSU's Mason Taylor, Nebraska's Thomas Fidone, Oregon's Terrence Ferguson, Pittsburgh's Gavin Bartholomew, Texas's Gunnar Helm, Georgia Tech's Jackson Hawes, Miami's Elijah Arroyo, UCLA's Malakavi Matavo make out the tight end group. I think you have 4 guys in this group in this group who are going to get taken probably in the top 100 picks. I think it's a really strong group of prospects at the tight end position. I think, we know Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren are going to be the first 2 tight ends taken, but I think this group, it makes up the next 3 guys. I think Fannin Jr., Mason Taylor, Gunnar Helm, and Elijah Arroyo. So I think those 4 guys all have a chance to be day 2 picks, potentially tight end 3, tight end 4, tight end 5, tight end 6, all coming from the Senior Bowl. All could be top 100 picks. I think some probably end up going on in round 2. The other ones who don't go on round 3. So that makes it a really interesting class. Let me start with Bowling Green's Harold Fannin Jr. Listen, 6'4", 230. But he had 117 catches for 1,555 yards and 10 touchdowns. He's not going to play in line. The frame is not of a tight end, a normal tight end frame. He could hold his own blocking in space, but he's not going to be a guy who holds the point of attack in line. There's some route refinement to his game. He doesn't have top end long speed. This isn't like Evan Ingram coming out of college, running like a 4.4 flat or something like that. But what he does offer, yes, he's an undersized pass catching tight end. I think the athleticism is good. I think the speed is good. Burst acceleration, good. The footwork and short area quickness. Route running and separation quickness is probably just average, but he's got good yak ability. He shows good play strength and toughness in the open field, even at 6'4", 230. He's got very good hands, body control and ball skills, the ability to adjust. He's got versatility to line up in line. Versatile lineup in the slot, outside, detach, use unmanufactured touches, a lot of different ways for you to use Harold Fannin Jr. The production he had when every team knew that they were running the offense through him, and he still put up that, I think shows you his ability to get open, shows you the ability to create late separation, knows how to run routes, even though I think there's still some refinement in terms of coming out a little bit cleaner and crisper when he's going up against better competition. I think we need to see some route refinement, but knows how to get open. Combination of the athleticism. Again, not elite level athlete, but a good athlete. A lot to like about Harold Fannin Jr.'s game. I think he could be tight end 3. I think somewhere 3, 4, 5, 6. It's kind of, I think, what we're looking at for Harold Fannin Jr. Jake Brinstool, liked him a lot coming into the season. Great size, very thin frame, good to very good athleticism, speed, and movement skills. He shows the ability to create separation at the top of his routes, very good receiving skills. I think he's a good route runner, shows good releases, got body control and ball skills. He's got great length and catch radius, can attack the seam and get vertical. Obviously, this year, Clemson's pass offense a little bit better than it has been the previous couple of years. I think Brinstool showed that he's capable of being a significant weapon at the next level in a pass catching role. He's not going to be a guy you could ask to line up much in line. LSU's Mason Taylor. I still have him as my tight end 3. Overall, he might be after Tyler Warren, the most complete tight end in this class. Great size. Frame is just average. Good athleticism, speed, movement skills, and yak ability. Good body control, ball skills, hands. He shows good length and catch radius. He shows the ability to high point and adjust for the football. He's versatile to line up in line or as a move tight end due to his blocking and receiving skills. I really like the complete package of a guy like Mason Taylor. He's not one-dimensional. He's not just a pass-catching guy like Fannin Jr. or Brinstool. He offers versatility to his game. He's got the size and frame to hold up in line as well. Lot to like about Mason Taylor's game. I think Terrence Ferguson, an interesting day 3 tight end. Only average athleticism, but great size, good frame, great length, the ability to high point, extend, and adjust for the football. He's got good play strength and physicality, creates space at the catch point to win contested catches. Average blocker, but shows good, toughness in giving his all in that regard. Gunnar Helm, another guy who's added to this tight end mix. 6'5", 250 this past year, 60 catches, 785 yards, and 7 touchdowns. That's a really strong tight end. He's got to improve a little bit in terms of his run blocking. I don't think he's at the top of his routes. Separation quickness is something that he can improve upon. He doesn't have a lot of long speed. A little bit inconsistent in terms of his power and play strength to hold the point of attack, even though he's got good size and frame. I think the athleticism is probably average to above average. Same with the footwork and the short area quickness, the average route runner, average play strength, physicality. He can create late separation to win contested catches. He's got good hands, ball skills, and body control. I think he's best as an inline wide tight end, but an inline wide tight end who has the ability to be a good receiver as well, that is hard to find. So he's got the size and frame to hold up in line. He's got experience playing in line. Then you add the production he could offer as a receiver. I think he's going to be another guy very interesting to see where he goes. I think he's got a real shot to be around 3 pick and in the top 100 as well. And then Elijah Arroyo is a guy that earlier in his career missed a lot of time due to injuries. He's not going to be a guy you're going to want to line up in line, asked to do a lot of blocking, to play strength, power, holding point of attack. That's not his game. But what he does bring to the table at 6'4", 245 is very good athleticism, speed, movement skills, acceleration, and burst to attack the seam. He can get vertical. He can be a yak weapon after the catch. He's got great length and catch radius, very good body control and ball skills. He can go up and high point the football, pass catching, move tight end, can attack the seam. Elijah Arroyo, obviously Miami this year with Cam Ward. Elijah Arroyo really put together. He's going to be a guy that defensive coordinators are going to have to be very cognizant of Arroyo once he gets on an NFL team, because he's a guy who can make a big play and break a game open, and that's a weapon. And teams are looking for those unique weapons on the offensive side of football. I think if the medicals check out, Arroyo's the name who we might see him go ahead of Harold Fannin Jr., even though he doesn't have the production. We might see him go ahead of Gunnar Helm. We might even see him push Mason Taylor. Now, I don't think that's going to happen due to some of the concerns about the injuries, but Arroyo is one of those guys who I think is going to move up rankings if the medicals check out, because of the type of weapon he could offer as a pass catcher at the next level. Really a fan of Arroyo. He should be a guy that if people are unfamiliar with his game, I think you're going to quickly see him rising, and we might see that start here at the Senior Bowl. If you take this to the wide receivers, so many wide receivers. I'm not going to read them. I'm not going to read them all. I'm just going to go through the ones who I'm looking forward to. I have some detailed notes I want to share about them. First one I want to bring up, haven't talked much about this year, is Illinois wide receiver Pat Bryant, 6'3", 200 pounds. He had almost 1,000 yards this past year, had 10 touchdowns. There's some route running in terms of his overall route running prowess, limited route tree. He's got to clean up his releases a little bit, and there's some long speed concerns, but he's got build up speed. He can pick up yards, that build up speed for a guy at 6'3", 200. He can get vertical, very good ball skills and body control. The ability to adjust and high point to the football allows him to win vertically down the field. The catch radius, the length, the ability to play above the rim, combine out the play strength, the hands, and the long strider allows Brian to win in a variety of ways. He could be a guy that is really a tough cover in one-on-one, especially when they're down the field. I expect to hear Bryant making some noise this week in Senior Bowl practices, because I do think he's got an interesting full repertoire. He's not going to be that guy that's going to blow people away in the one-on-ones with his speed and quickness. But when he gets an opportunity down the field, I think that ball skills and that body control and the ability to play above the rim, Brian could shine in that regard. Wide receiver out of Iowa State, Jaden Higgins. He's a guy that Dane Brugler's first mock draft had him going in round 2. So that perked my ears up a little bit. I thought he was more of a round 3, round 4 player. But when you see Dane put him there, I think right at the end of the second round, I think that speaks volumes on where he's looked at in potentially this class. Great size, good frame. I think the athleticism is probably just average to above average, but he's got good body control, good ball skills, good length and catch radius. He's another guy who can play above the rim, good ability to adjust and high point the football. He's got good short area bursts and uses body well to create late separation. Love the receivers who can create that late separation. I think that's very important for the bigger type of wide receivers. His teammate, haven't talked a lot about him, Iowa State's Jalen Noel, 5'9", 200. So different style player than his teammate Jaden Higgins. This past year, he had 80 receptions for almost 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. Not a guy who's got top end long speed. Got to clean up some drops issues. A little bit undersized, but good athleticism, speed, movement skills. For me, it's the short area and separation quickness and the movement skills that intrigue me about him. Good footwork and route running, good agility and yak ability. To me, he's a slot wide receiver and can be used on manufactured touches in a variety of ways. I have him on that round 3, round 4 border. A guy who I think is going to be one of the guys who's generating a lot of buzz post-Senior Bowl is Ty Felton out of Maryland. Talked a little bit about him this year, 6'2", 181. This past year, 96 catches, 1,124 yards, 9 touchdowns. Obviously, the frame is going to be a little bit of a concern. A little thin, play strength, physicality, contested catches, beating physical press. That's not Felton's forte. That's not his game. But what he brings to the table, very good to great athleticism, speed, explosiveness, burst and and acceleration off the line of scrimmage, can win vertically, good route runner, footwork, separation quickness, and yak ability, body control and ball skills. To me, he's a vertical slot or outside vertical wide receiver. I could see him being a really tough cover for DBs this week because not only can he win off the line of scrimmage with his route running, but he's got that top end speed that he can win vertically deep as well. I think Felton is going to be a riser in this pre-draft process. I think you're going to hear a lot more buzz about a day two potential for Ty Felton after Mobile is done. A couple slot guys that I think are going to be very intriguing. We've talked a lot about him this year. It's Miami's Xavier Restrepo and Oregon's Tej Johnson. Xavier Restrepo, listen, he's a slot only. Athleticism is only average. Long speed's only average. But the movement skills, the short area and separation quickness is very good. The route running, the toughness, physicality, the footwork, understanding of route concepts, good yak ability, change of direction skills, good hands. It's going to be a guy that just keeps the chains moving. Where is that valued? Again, I keep coming back to once upon a time the Giants took Wan'Dale Robinson in the top 50. I don't think Restrepo's going top 50, but it shows you that when teams are looking for a certain type of player, they will push them up the board a little bit. If you're looking for a slot-only player, Restrepo is one of arguably the best in this year's class in terms of what he brings to the table. On the flip side, another guy who's going to be a slot guy, but more explosiveness than a guy like Restrepo is Tej Johnson out of Oregon. He's going to generate some Tank Dell buzz. Can he play a little bit on the outside? Does his top end athleticism, movement skills, speed and acceleration allow teams to do different things with a guy like Tej Johnson? He's got dynamic return ability, so great in the open field. You got to find a way to get him the ball and let him use that yak ability, change of direction, agility, and elusiveness. So he's a guy generating a lot of, I think he'll generate a lot of buzz down there in Mobile as well. Potentially the top wide receiver down there is Stanford's Alec Imaner. Good size and frame, good athleticism, movement skills, speed and acceleration, good to very good play strength, physicality. You see in his routes, you see it at the catch point and after the catch in his yak abilities, got body control and ball skills, good hands, shows the ability to adjust, extend, and high point to win contested catches. Obviously, that Stanford offense was tough to watch this year. Imaner was held back by that. So this is an opportunity for him to kind of regain that momentum because he was looked at potentially a round one guy. I don't think round one's in the mix anymore, but I do think he could see somewhere on day two and potentially be a strong round two candidate if he has a good pre-draft process. Brew McCoy, I feel like he's been in college forever. He's going to be down there. Good size and frame, good athleticism, very good play strength, contact balance, and physicality to create space at the catch point, the body control, hands, ball skills, the ability to go up and get it and win contested catches. A guy who I'm really excited to watch down there is Savion Williams out of TCU, 6'5", 225. Can be a receiver, 60 catches, 611 yards, 6 touchdowns. Also ran for 322 yards and 6 touchdowns. Route running needs to be refined. He needs the route tree to be expanded. He's got some drop issues. But we're talking about a guy with top-end athleticism, straight line speed, acceleration and burst, good play strength, toughness, physicality, contact balance. He can go up and win contested catches. He can pick up yards after the catch. Versatile offensive weapon. You're going to hear the name Cordell Patterson mentioned at times with Savion Williams. It's just inevitable that comp's going to be out there as a offensive weapon that can be used in a variety of ways. I do think Williams is a better receiver than a guy like Cordell Patterson was, but you're going to hear that name just in terms of his versatility and explosiveness as an offensive weapon. Jalen Royals, I've been on the Jalen Royals bandwagon from before the year started. Very good athleticism, speed, movement skills, and yak ability. I love the route running, the footwork, and the separation and short area quickness. He can win at all 3 levels. He's got great catch radius due to his leaping ability. A lot to like about Jalen Royals' game. Jalen Lane down there from Virginia Tech. He was a guy who was always going to have a bigger senior year, a little undersized, but very good athleticism, movement skills, acceleration, speed, and burst to win vertically. He's got separation quickness and good route running. I love the yak ability. He shows agility and elusiveness, and he's a great returner as well. And then last wide receiver I want to talk about is Jack Beck out of TCU. This past year, over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6'2", 215. Not going to be a guy that blows you away with his long speed. Top of the routes, not a lot of separation quickness. Definitely some route refinement needed, but really good body control, ball skills, ability to go up and get it, good play strength, toughness, and physicality, creates that late separation, wins contested catches, really good blocker, outside wide receiver. that's going to show his ball skills, I think, in this setting as well. So there it is, guys. I went through the majority of the top prospects at the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions. There's other guys that I didn't get a chance to really get into on the film yet. So I'm going to kind of use the Senior Bowl as potentially a jumping off point. If anybody else kind of pops, especially at the wide receiver position, there's just so many other wide receivers. Didn't get a chance to really get eyes on all of them, especially if they weren't on my radar from a little earlier in the season. Shrine Bowl practices have already been kicking off into high gear over the last 2 days, but I did want to at least kind of touch upon the Shrine Bowl as well. I'll be sharing my thoughts a lot on those guys during the game on Thursday night next week. Let me go through the top guys who I'm intrigued with from down there. Obviously, at the quarterback position, the big name there is Shea Sanders. He's only meeting with teams and interviewing. He's not actually doing any of the on-field drills, which is a little bit unfortunate. But again, we know who Shea Sanders is. And the anticipation, the touch, the accuracy in the ball placement, the cerebral part of the game is where Shea Sanders shines. The athletic traits are probably average at best. The size and frame, definitely at average at best. Some bad traits he kind of fell into. The, handling pressure was an issue a little bit. Things he's got to clean up on. But the cerebral part of the game make him a really intriguing prospect for me. He's still my 1A quarterback. Cam Ward's my 1B. But Sanders is a guy that I don't think we're going to see much in the pre-draft process. He's been a starter for 4 years. I think he's going to kind of, I think between the Titans, the Browns, the Giants, the Raiders, I think we're probably going to see him in the top 6 in some capacity. And I think he's going to kind of rest on what he put out there in 4 years of film. The big name at the quarterback position that's already been generating some buzz down there is Syracuse's Kyle McCord, obviously a former big-time recruit, ended up at Syracuse here to conclude his collegiate career. He's 6'3", 220, good size and frame, traditional pocket passing quarterback, not going to do much in terms of his athleticism. I'd say the arm talent is probably average to above average, but he can make every throw. Brings a lot of intangibles, the toughness, the pocket presence, good accuracy in the short to intermediate range, shows touch, can work through progressions. He could be a guy that's in that round 3, round 4 buzz, somewhere in that quarterback 6 to quarterback 8 range in this year's draft class. I think Kyle McCord, with Shea Sanders not participating, is really going to stand out as the clear top quarterback down there at the Shrine Bowl. Interested to kind of see how North Dakota State's Cam Miller looks. He'll be a guy I'm watching closely in the game and, checking out the clips and stuff from the practices that are put out there as an intriguing guy. Could be a late round flyer potentially. At the running back position, just like the Senior Bowl, the running back position is loaded down here. Texas Tech, Taj Brooks, we know the elite level college production that he had, but Taj Brooks, tough, physical inside runner, great leg drive, power, great collegiate production, north-south, power gap scheme runner. If you're looking for Brooks, I think he's going to be an interesting, like round 5, round 6 type guy. Maybe starts out as 3rd on the depth chart, but if given the opportunity, I think he could be a productive player at the next level. We've seen how much he can handle in terms of his workload, just that tough physical, bruising type runner that's Taj Brooks brings to the table. I think the guy generating some buzz, and I think is a guy I'm really excited to get some eyes on, is Arizona's Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. 4 years at Alabama State, 1 year in New Mexico, and then ended up at Arizona. New Mexico, we had over 1,100 yards and 17 touchdowns. Transferred to Arizona, but only played in 1 game due to eligibility issues. Really interested to kind of see him down in this setting and try to make a name for himself. The athleticism, the short area quickness, the agility. He's been one of the names that keeps generating a lot of buzz from people on the ground there at the Shrine Bowl practices. So I'm excited to kind of see how the rest of this week plays out for Krosky-Merritt, see how he looks in the game, and maybe try to get some eyes on his tape from his New Mexico season to see, to make more of a hard stance take on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Florida's Montreal Johnson's down there. Talked about him before the season started. He was on, the summer shows Good size and frame. Athleticism is probably just average in terms of his speed, athleticism, movement skills. He's got good vision and patience, good contact balance, leg drive, shows good footwork with the ability to one cut. Clemson's Phil Maffa's down there. Great size and frame. Athleticism, again, only average, but footwork and short area quickness I like. Very good contact balance, the power to play strength, the leg drive, kind of some of the same things I was talking about Taj Brooks. Phil Maffa brings to the table as well. Probably the running back I'm most intrigued with down there, South Carolina's Rocket Raheem Sanders. Checked in at 224. All weights for him listed were like 241. So he's down to 224, which is a great, frame for him. We know he's got ideal size. Once upon a time, we thought he was a clear day 2 prospect. Didn't work out at Arkansas. Transferred to South Carolina. Had a really productive season this year. I'm interested to kind of see if he can generate some buzz in the pre-draft process here. And coming in at 224 in his weigh-in, I think is a really good first step for him, especially if he shows some more speed when he gets to like the combine testing or his pro days, because there's things to like about his game from early in his collegiate career. He was productive. Teams like that. Now you add, he concludes with a really strong year this past year. Now we see him drop the weight. He's got play strength, he's got power, he's got contact balance. But now if we see more athleticism, burst, speed, and acceleration, I think he starts to become a really toolsy type guy to go somewhere in that round 4, round 5 range. Take this to the pass catchers. It's a strong tight end group there. We got Texas Tech's Jalen Conyers this past year, 30 catches, 320 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Very versatile tight end. Can play some inline, can be detached in motion, can be an H-back. The blocking's got to improve a little bit, especially at 263. You want to see him a better guy, a better blocker, but he's got good athleticism, movement skills. He's got play strength, toughness, and physicality. So there's a lot to like about Conyers' game is that movable chest piece at the tight end position. Maybe he's like a late round 6, round 7 type prospect. You got Notre Dame's Mitchell Evans. He was a guy that, for some people, was a day 2 prospect before the year started. For me, he was more of that like early day 3. I think he probably has settled in as like a round 4, round 5 guy. The athleticism and the movement skills is probably just average, but he's got really good play strength, toughness, physicality. You see it in the blocking, creates space at the catch point. He's got body control and ball skills, got good length and catch radius. He can go up and get it, and he's a solid blocker as well. So Mitchell Evans, a really guy could be an intriguing tight end 2 for a team drafted somewhere on day 3. Oronde Gadsden out of Syracuse started out once upon a time was a wide receiver, then switched to tight end. Not going to be a guy who does much in line, but he's an interesting, versatile mismatch weapon as a big slot or a move tight end. Got good athleticism, route running, separation quickness. He's got very good body control, ball skills, length and catch radius. Can go up and get it. Gadsden's a guy in that if you're just looking for a pass catching guy, Gadsden could be an intriguing guy somewhere on day 3, maybe even early day 3 if a team has a clear role for him. Other tight ends I'm excited to see down there. You got 3 other guys I've been eyes on for a while. Luke Lachey out of Iowa. We know these Iowa tight ends tend to perform well when they get to the next level. Great size, good frame. He's got good athleticism, movement skills, and speed, especially at his size and frame. Great catch radius. He shows the ability to go up and get it as well. He's got good play strength, ball skills, and body control. He creates space at the catch point. And then you got Ole Miss's Caden Prieskorn. Been talking about him for the last couple of years. Athleticism is probably average to above average, but he's got good ball skills, hands, body control, and the length with the ability to adjust. He's got play strength and physicality to create space at the catch point, average to above average blocking skills as well. And then Ben Urasek, formerly of Stanford, this past year of Georgia. There are people who have been big Urasek fans throughout his collegiate career. I always had some concerns about his athleticism. I think it's probably just average to above average, and he's more of a pass catcher, even though he's got more of an inline body. But he put up really productive numbers in Stanford. He ends up at Georgia. Obviously, they are a loaded tight end group there. But he's got above average route running. I think he's a smart route runner, shows good body control and hands with the ball skills and ability to adjust and high points to the football. Urasek could be one of those guys. Again, I think we're talking most of these tight ends here. We're probably talking day 3. We talked about all the guys who are going to make up, from the Senior Bowl, and that wasn't even counting Loveland and Warren are going to make up the first 3 rounds. So there's a lot of interesting names, though, I think, coming from this All-Star game. who are going to make up day 3. I think the 5-6 tight ends from the Shrine Bowl are going to be drafted somewhere between round 4 and round 6. And Yarosek is another one of those guys that I think in that round 6, round 7 range, somebody might take a chance on him as well. And then the wide receivers, a bunch of names there that I think stand out. Louisville's Ja'Cory Brooks, former big-time recruit to Alabama. Frame, is obviously, just only average, but he's got good size. But his calling card is his speed, his athleticism, his burst, his explosiveness to win vertically down the field. It can be a vertical slotter, it can be an outside X, good yak ability and a weapon after the catch due to a straight line speed. Shows good releases and separation quickness off the line of scrimmage as well. Miami, formerly of Houston, Sam Brown. I was high on him entering the season. I thought he was going to be that guy that maybe really could have kind of blown up a little bit with Cam Ward. Didn't really happen this year, but there's still traits about Sam Brown, similar to Ja'Cory Brooks, that I'm really intrigued by. Very good to great athleticism, speed, stop-start acceleration, burst and explosiveness, offers dynamic yak ability. He's got separation quickness, movement skills. There's a lot to like about Sam Brown's game. I think he could be a guy that generates a little buzz here in the pre-draft process. Early reports so far are that former Georgia recruit, Syracuse, is Jackson Meeks, who transferred from Georgia, got an opportunity this year and really performed well with Kyle McCord. He's 6'2", 217, so he's got good size and frame. He's got good ball skills, body control, shows the ability to go up and get it. Can be a red zone weapon as well with his size and frame, and he's had a lot of positive reports in the early days of Shrine Bowl practices. You got Nick Nash out of San Jose State, the former quarterback. This past year, 104 catches for 1,382 yards and 16 touchdowns. Obviously, doesn't have top-end long speed, level of competition, but that kind of production is eye-opening. Very smart, very instinctive, good route running, good footwork, good separation quickness. He's got, the size offers good length and catch radius. Best is a big slot, tough physical to go over the middle. Nick Nash is going to be a really interesting guy. He's probably not going to go to like round 5 to round 7, but when you talk about that level of production, still relatively inexperienced to the wide receiver position, there's some intrigue over a guy like Nick Nash. So he's going to be a guy that I think it's going to be fun to kind of watch his pre-draft process after he had that type of collegiate production. Caden Prater out of Maryland, before the season started, he was generating some late day 2 buzz. I think he's going to be more of a round 4 to round 6 type guy. I don't think the athleticism really stands out too much, but for him, good to very good play strength, body control, ball skills. He shows the ability to go up and get it. He can win contested catches, create some late separation at the catch point. Prater, again, I'm more on his teammate Felton's bandwagon, but Prater's another guy who I think is going to have his fans as a guy somewhere on day 3. You have all the Colorado guys there. Jimmy Horns had a lot of positive reports. It was a down year for him, but he's an explosive player, can win vertically down the field. You have Will Shepard there out of Colorado, another guy who, had his moments there. And then, LeJonte Webster is the guy who had the best season for Colorado this year. Small, obviously, 5'11", 167. But what he does bring to the table is really impactful, undersized slot wide receiver with good athleticism, speed, and movement skills, short area quickness, very tough cover. So he's going to be an interesting somewhere round 5, round 6 type guy for a team looking for a slot-only guy. Again, we talked about the top-end guys like Restrepo and stuff like that who are probably going to go day 2. But if you want a discount version of them, a guy like LeJonte Webster, somewhere in round 5 or round 6, I think makes a lot of sense as well. A great returner as well. And we know that teams are looking for those return guys on day 3 as well. Antoine Wells out of Ole Miss has not gotten back to that level of production that we saw earlier in his college career, but he's still got that size and frame that stand out. The tough physical guy who can pick up yards after the catch, great contact balance, physicality, toughness. Interesting to kind of see if the pre-draft process, he can start generating some buzz a little bit. Theo Weiss out of Missouri, formerly once upon a time out of Oklahoma. I feel like he's been in college like Brew McCoy for like 6-7 years. He's got good separation quickness in his routes, good yak ability and agility in the open field. He's got body control and ball skills, catch radius and length to go up and get the football as well. And then I think the standout so far from the early practices has been UNLV's Ricky White. And he's a guy who I did a quick study on earlier today, but I really want to dig even a little deeper into him. But 79 catches, almost 1,000 yards this past year, 11 touchdowns. Size is average in frame, but very good athleticism, speed, movement skills. I like the burst and acceleration out of his routes and to win vertically down the field. I think the route running and the footwork are very good, shows good releases at the top of his routes in terms of his separation quickness. I think he's got good length and catch radius. I think he's got ball control and ball skills and body control to adjust to the football. There's a lot to like about his game. I think he's got some inside-outside versatility. And on top of it, an elite special teams player, a guy who made a living blocking punts. That is going to stand out to teams. So, like, when you're talking about guys in that, like, day 3 range, and if Ricky White goes ahead of other bigger name wide receivers, that's going to be the reason why. Not only is a really intriguing wide receiver prospect with high-end athleticism, he's a right off the bat top level core special teams guy, and not just as not a returner, but as a guy going after the football and trying to block punts with a great track record of it. So Ricky White is a really intriguing name that I think people are not talking about enough. And I'm hoping that the early buzz from the Shrine Bowl starts to get a little bit more national attention there for Ricky White. So there it is, guys. Detailed analysis previewing the Senior Bowl and then talking about some intriguing names at the Shrine Bowl as well. As I mentioned, we are just really going to start kicking into high gear now here at Saturday Sunday. This is the time that we really like to shine, bringing more coverage, more podcasts, much more active on Twitter as well. Potentially looking to start up an Instagram account for Saturday Sunday as well. When we offering some daily quick hitting videos on there as well, looking into getting that started in the pre-draft months as well. If you're enjoying the content, please get over to the website, SS Football, fastest and easiest way to get there. Check out our premium notebooks for $9.99. You get access to all of our premium content. The rankings notebook has been fully updated. Tab now just for the guys who have declared for the NFL draft. Fully updated. Continue to update those rankings as I do a deeper dive on this year's film. The Devy rankings are fully updated, with the season concluding. The positional dynasty NFL rankings are updated. Last year's rookies in their terms of their dynasty value, that rankings is also updated. The scouting notebook has now been separated. The guys who didn't declare are on separate tabs. The guys who have did a lot of updates to that already. And I've added like 20 new names that it says profile coming soon. So you'll see guys, a lot of top level guys, it'll have their name, their stats, their round projection, but then the full detailed profile is coming soon. That'll be done probably in between the Senior Bowl and the Combine. That'll be fully updated as well. And then obviously, you got strengths, functional areas, developmental areas, how they win, NFL role, NFL fit, fantasy spin, all that in the scouting notebook. And then the draft projections notebook comes out in April. Tabs for every single position, offense and defense, snapshot of how they win, developmental areas, all their combine measurements, all their testing numbers, and it's projecting everything I'm hearing, listening, reading, how I expect them to come off the board, a tab projecting the first round, a tab projecting the first 3 rounds, and then a tab projecting every player to come off the board in all 7 rounds. We have had tremendous success with the draft projections notebook. Look forward to keeping that going this year as well. You get it all for $9.99. I know there's so many great things out there, guys, but if you could help support us, it is the lifeblood of us continuing to do Saturday to Sunday in terms of just paying for the server fees, the subscriptions we need. We get it from that $9.99 for the premium notebooks, and you're getting a lot of value for that as well. So if you bought it in the past, we hope you consider purchasing again. If you've never bought it, we hope you consider purchasing it for the first time as well. So on behalf of our sound tech engineer, David Nakano, and myself, thank you for joining us, and we look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.